good to be alive. Good to be alive. Yeah, it's good to be alive. And we all want to see you thrive. Hang on for the ride. This is Paul Vibes, bringing you a spiritual flow and information that can remedy the soul. A man for the people, message in a bottle, but he threw it in a podcast. Now it's full throttle. Life is never hollow, but if you ever feel twisted or need to be lifted, yo, my man is gifted.
Hello, everybody. Paul Vibes here. Welcome to another episode of the People's Podcast. I have Melissa Del Toro Schaffner. Said it correctly, right?
Yes, you did. Yes.
Awesome. You have contagious energy of great vibes. Every conversation we've had, I've always walked away feeling like motivated and inspired. You do a lot of really cool stuff. So I'm really grateful to have you on the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me, Paul. I really appreciate it. It's great.
Thank you. It's great to have you on. I went on your website prior and heard some of the amazing work that you do. For the viewers, watching this who don't know anything about you yet, there might be some people who know all about you, but share with us a little bit about the different voiceover work that you do, because it's super cool. You don't hear a lot of people doing that stuff. You hear it a lot in movies and shows and audiobooks. You hear it all the time, but I feel like it's very rare that you find somebody who is actually creating this stuff. So share anything you want with us. How did you get into this field?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's funny because you said you had visited my website, and I had somebody recently send me sort of a confidential note, like, don't let anybody kind of know about this note. And they said, Melissa, I don't know if you know this, but there's commercials playing in the background of your website. And I was like, I know, because that's my voice in the commercials. And they seemed to be really funny. Yeah, they were like totally distressed that I had commercials playing on my website. And I thought that was kind of funny. I was
like, good thing,
well.
people, that means that you're doing the right thing, because that's what you're meant to create with those different projects. You're creating commercials.
Exactly. And one of the great things is that lately I have shared some of the work that I've done. And even my mother and my sister said, oh my goodness, I didn't even know that was you. Which, I mean, is that a good thing or a bad thing? But apparently it just sounded legit, and I was really happy with that. So you had asked me the question, how did I get into voice acting? I actually know a lot of voice actors, but that's because I'm in those circles. So everybody I know feels like they're a voice actor, but I do run into a lot of people who have never met someone who does this for a living. It is a profession. It's not like something you could just sort of, pick up the phone and be like, hi, welcome to my voicemail. There's a lot more training that goes into it. But I guess where I really started was I think it was 1998. Maybe somebody will look it up on me. But there was a movie called A Bug's Life, if you remember that.
It's one of my favorite. You're involved in that movie?
No, I wish. It was the inspiration. It was the spark that set off the flame of my intense desire to do voice acting. So
great movie.
It was. And I think the thing that impressed me the most about that movie at the time, because now it seems sort of passé. Oh, animated movies, they're so good. But back then, I mean, if you look at the old Toy Stories, you can see the changes in the way that the people and the characters, the technology's gotten a lot better. But back then, I was really impressed because there were no like identifiable actors in that movie, A Bug's Life. There was another movie that came out at the same time called Ants, if you remember.
Yeah, another one of my favorite movies. Yeah.
Yeah, and that one had a lot of star like A-list Sylvester Stallone, celebrity characters in it, identifiable voices. But in A Bug's Life, it felt like just regular people, and that was the first time I thought, like, maybe I could do that. Like, maybe I'll never be as famous as, Jennifer Lopez, but maybe my voice could be in a movie like that, and I was I was enraptured by this idea that I could use my voice for a living in that way, since I've always been a cartoon buff. Like, even when I didn't have kids, all the 37 years of my life actually more like 41, that I didn't have kids, that's all that was ever on my TV is cartoons. And I thought, maybe I'm mental, maybe, because that's all I love to watch is cartoons, animated flicks. Like, I love that. So when I figured that an adult can be in that world and have a profession doing that, I was hooked.
That's super cool. Now, what was the first project you took on after being inspired by those movies in the late 90s?
Well, here's the thing about dreams and goals and
Takes
dreams,
time.
is that, see, and maybe the listeners can identify with this. You have a dream. You have something in your heart that you really want to do. And then somebody practical, or maybe your Puerto Rican grandma or somebody like that tells you, you can't make money doing that. That's ridiculous. And so you give up on your dream and you say, okay, maybe that's not something I can do. It sounds fascinating, but maybe it's just not for me. It can't pay the rent. So I sat on that desire and I put it on my vision board. I didn't give up on it, but I sat on that desire for about 20 years. 15 or 20 years. And then recently, when my father passed away and I had already started my business, and I was not doing well. I was not making any money, and I was not engaged in the job I was doing. I was an online project manager, which was fun enough, but I was just creating another job for myself with my business. And I wasn't really enjoying myself. I wasn't connecting, and I wasn't making money. And so I thought to myself, if I'm going to start a job or start a company that's not making money, I might as well do something I love, not making money, instead of doing something that's just another job to make money. And the minute that I did that, Paul, like, the world of opportunities opened up to me. I signed up for ACX and I did my first audiobook, which was, by an author who, she found me and she was really excited to work with me, and she was a first-time publisher as well. So we were both newbies, and that's okay. Everybody starts somewhere,
right?
Yeah, everybody. And, voice actors are often sort of embarrassed or ashamed of some of their first works, because you get better and better as you go along, right?
Listen, I have to interrupt you because there's this saying, and it's same for content creators like myself, is if you don't look back at some of the first things that you've created and you're not embarrassed or cringe, you did something, you waited too long to pull a trigger. Because a lot of my mentors, I remember talking to them and saying, I want to speak once I had this brochure finished up or the website finished up. And one of my mentors, and many people have said it since then, but he's like, if you're in that state of mind of always needing to wait to be perfect, you're always going to be in a constant state of waiting. And
Yes.
by putting yourself out there, by doing that first audiobook, by me doing the first videos, I love looking back and seeing how far I've come. Do you feel that way as well when you look back at your original work?
I do. And, some of the investments that I made that were scary, purchasing some of the software that I thought, I don't know how I'm going to pay for this software, a couple $100. And you're like, yeah, because you're not making the money at first. And you're thinking, I don't want to have to go back to my old life. I want to make this work. So.
Absolutely. And, it could be anything. What's funny is I listened to your story of even just a little you shared already with us. It reminds me of a lot of the different things I speak to at schools with young adults, because as you know, a lot of young adults are going through that, right? They're fearful of the future. Their family or parents might tell them you need to go to college and follow through on this career path. But inside, they might have a very creative kind of separate path that they want to go down. And there's a lot of there's a lot of anxiety and fear that comes with kind of creating your own identity. And it seems like you have a great story of kind of following your dreams. You saw those movies in the late 90s, and you had, you said your grandma saying to you, why are you doing this? There's no money in this. What are you doing? And I'm sure the money didn't come right away, and it's still it's a lot of work doing something that you're passionate about.
It is. And it's interesting that you say about young people and having anxiety over going for their dreams. But one of the reasons why I didn't pursue what I really loved, which was entertainment, the arts, when I was 17, was that I was terrified of putting my heart out there. I was terrified of getting criticized for something that I loved, for something that I was good at, for something that I was passionate about. I didn't want anyone to say anything bad about that. So in order to protect that, when I was so young, I decided to go into a field that that basically doesn't really have a lot of emotions, which is engineering. So, yeah, I mean, it's challenging to have all those anxieties, and it takes real courage to stand up for yourself and to go after what you want in life, for sure.
Well, I gotta say, I'm very grateful you did, because I could tell the life and energy you bring to all the different projects you work in. And just me, I may not be, calling you up to do a project or anything like that, but it's one of those things where just communicating and networking with you and just connecting with you is you could just tell that you're on your path. And I'd like to think I'm on the same path as well, of following through in what I'm passionate about,
Yes,
despite how much energy and money and time that it costs. It feels good to wake up in the morning and go to bed at night knowing that you're doing something that you're passionate about. And there's been many
absolutely.
times, and I'm sure you feel the same way, there's been many times in my life where there've been a lot of so-called haters or doubters, right? That say, why are you doing this? There's so much risk, or there's not enough reward. How much money are
Yeah.
you going to make? What's the point? To just look good on your resume? But it feels so good to, do something that you're passionate about. Have you met along the way? I'm curious, have you had, not apprentices, but people that have reached out to you that want to learn what you've done and get involved in the field? Is the voice acting a community supportive of each other? Like what goes on in your guys' community? What's the
Well,
scoop? Tell us the inside scoop.
the
What's going on?
insider from the inside. Um, how do I encapsulate it? Because there's so much opportunity for voiceover at so many different price points that it's mind-boggling. So I am part of the New York City voice actors group on Facebook. I lived in New York City for 5 years, and that's where I basically got my start and got my entrance into the community of voice actors. I also have friends from the LA community. That's the two big hubs, is New York City and LA. But due to recent events with a health crisis, as well as just over time, the equipment getting cheaper, better, a lot of people are building home studios. You and I are doing this because we both have home studios now. So
Mm,
um, there's professional communities that network, and people, voice actors that reach out, and they're sort of building their own business and their own brand. And then there are voice actors who are on the pay to play sites. And often those, mix, because a lot of people who are doing their own business also look for work on, Upwork, Fiverr, Voices 123, all of those places, even ACX, you'll see voice actors finding work in them. The way that I've taken my career is to network with real human people. Because I don't know about you, I would want to see if you agree with this, but people hire people that they know, like, and trust, and they're willing to pay them, for their services. Whereas somebody, a faceless voice, you may think, you just 30 seconds, how much I pay them? $10. When you know the person and you know how much they've trained and how many classes they've took to get good, you know. So
yeah.
there's a lot of different places you can find voice actors. I'm particularly involved in the New York City scene, so that's where I find a lot of people to connect with.
Yeah. And I just want to say, and I highly recommend anybody watching this podcast, even if they have a question about your field, they want to get a price quote, or they just want to, if they have a project and they want to pick your brain. After our first conversation, I mentioned this earlier, you can tell that it's not just about getting a job. Like you truly want to connect with people. And you're right. I've already mentioned to you that since our last phone call, I've already planted the seed, and I've talked to authors of mine, motivational speakers, and I've already shared with them about you and about the work that you do,
Thanks.
because you do really stand out. I don't know a lot of people in your field, and you just have a very unique energy about you. And I think, and the person that I'm talking to in this podcast right now is the same person that I was speaking to on the phone. So it's not like you're playing a
Yeah.
role, and I think that that's really cool. And yeah, how many of your, I'm curious, how many of your leads and jobs come from connections, people you've known or through people you know already, compared to maybe people you've never met? I'm just curious, what's the life, the work, how does that work out for you guys? Is a lot
Ni-
of connection?
90 to 100%. are people who have seen me, have observed me for a little while, have heard something I've done. It's much more difficult. The statistics are, if you're on a pay-to-play or if you're on a site that you go on and you upload your profile, some of the best actors will tell you they audition between 60 and 90 times before they book one.
Wow.
So if you can imagine how much work it is. And then on top of that, you have the tiers of people who have been on those sites for 5-10 years, have preference over people who have just joined. So as you can imagine, it's very easy to give up on your dream when you don't hook into a community, when you don't start taking classes, when you don't start getting coached, because all of those networking connections like you and I are doing right now, they matter. You can't be invisible, because if you're invisible, that's going to show up, in your bank account,
It's true. And this, some to many people, this isn't just a hobby. This is their full-time job. And you're right. And I think that for people like you and I who have the studio, and you're right, there's many people during COVID that had to build a studio quickly, right?
Yeah.
And in a way, I was, as you know, I was building a studio as things were happening. So in a way, I was prepared. But there's many people that are in the podcast field, in the voice acting field, that weren't prepared for this. They're probably used to going to in a studio for this and that. And they really had to learn to adapt. And I want to kind of pivot. I want to learn more about how you as an individual has been able to adapt and pivot during this time. Maybe you had some really highs and lows. Like, I would love to hear, how has this time been, this last almost half a year now, and a little bit, how has this time been for you?
Ironically enough, nothing much has changed, because I have never relied on anyone to give me anything. Like, that's a lie. My mother gives me money. But I've never relied on anyone to give me work or anything like that. For instance, even when I was in the corporate world in engineering, every time I pivoted, I made a choice of what I wanted to do, and then I found who it was that would help me to get there. I've had jobs created for me, like that job wasn't anywhere. I just said, hey, I have this and I can do this. And if you need me to go out and get coffee, I'll do that too.
Blair.
It's like, hey, you get in, you get them a cup of coffee, some Chinese food for lunch. And
listen, I would get you a coffee right now, but we're kind of like in different states. So I think it might be cold by the time it gets to you.
I take gift cards. No.
Hey, Amazon gift cards. I mean, I buy a lot of stuff on Amazon. So.
Exactly. So the key to pivoting is just to network, to leverage your relationships, and to see what you're good at. What can you offer people that you do well, that you like to do, or that your background supports you being able to do? I actually worked at a renewable energy firm. It was a power firm in Austin, Texas, back in my heyday. Actually, maybe my heyday is on its way. I don't know. And I was looking for a job. I was homeless in Austin, Texas, because I moved there without a job, without very much of a plan. I had a couple house sitting assignments, so I was bouncing around watching people's pets while I lived out of my car. But I knew I could trust myself, and I knew I could rely on myself to get what I needed. So I had an internet connection, and what I would do is I'd attend every networking event that I could find. Paul, I made a business card with wind turbines on it. And I knew nothing about the wind industry, but I wanted to work in renewables. So I went to everybody who was like the wind energy conference in Dallas and anybody. And I was like, here. And I was like, amazing. Give me a job. And I found a job in the wind energy industry as a project manager, making like, I think it was 85 grand a year, which was awesome at a startup in Texas.
And you had no prior experience in that industry, right?
I didn't know. I know nothing.
Well, I'm just curious. What did you say when they asked you what experience did you have? How did that happen? It's so amazing.
Hey, I mean, I'm an electrical engineer, so I know something about power, but I'd never worked in the power industry. I figured I can just learn it. Right. Everything I've done in a job, I've had to learn. Somebody had to teach me. It's not like anybody tells you how to do a job or how to be an entrepreneur or how to be a podcaster. Like you
You
have
kind of learn as you go.
yeah, you had to sort that bleep out, you know? So I interviewed, I gave them the strongest skill sets I had, which was project management. I'm a pro at that. And I learned what I needed to know about energy, about the industry. And we were off to the races, you know, and I led group meetings. I'm good at networking. But you know what I mean? Like, just make your own opportunity. If you don't see what you want out there, create it.
I like that a lot. I like that. And you seem like the person that, and like I mentioned earlier, not waiting. Don't wait till you've, in your mind, mastered voice acting. You're going to go and learn as you go.
Right.
One of the things I want to ask you, and I appreciate you sharing that. One of the things I want to ask you is in the theme of creating, like you mentioned, there's a lot of people out there now, TikTok, YouTube, movies, audiobooks. There's so much data, right? There's so much content out there. And as a voice actress, right? Voice actress, that's the right word, right? That's wording, right? Voice actress.
Voice actor is,
Voice actress.
you can call me an actress. I'm a feminist. I love men and women and everybody.
All
You can call
sex,
me whatever.
everything.
Everything
we love
is
all
good.
people here that
We
do
love
this
people.
podcast.
Yeah,
all about
we
love. We love everybody. Question for you. When someone hires somebody like you, especially you, what are they getting? How is the quality of their content changing when they have professional audio? Someone like yourself who's recording on high quality equipment that knows how to express yourself through voice and to read the words off the paper, and like how much does that really increase the quality? I mean, where have you seen the improvements in people's content when they start connecting with people like yourself and getting voiceovers? Do you see a big improvement in people's content when they start doing that?
Yes, absolutely. If you have content that needs a disembodied voice, which is basically voice acting, like if you don't see the actor on the screen talking to you, it's a voiceover. So two people, Sam and Sue, could have exactly the same equipment, but Sam took lessons from voiceover coaches, and Sam bought Isotope RX7, and Sam invested in a class that helped him to use, I use Adobe Audition, but whatever editor you want to use, you could use Audacity, it's free. Two people. And was it Sally or Sarah?
Sally and Sue. You said Sally and Sue. We're getting the names already. Oh my God. Good thing we didn't hire you for that audio right now.
That's so funny. I created them on the spot. I forgot.
I know.
I think I said Sam and Sue. So anyway, the first person invests in themselves and their equipment and coaching. The second person just has at it, just buys all the same equipment, teaches himself on the fly, and uploads something. You can really tell the difference in the professional voiceover because in voice acting classes, they teach you acting. I mean, it's really acting. Lifting the words off the page isn't easy. And I mean, if you ever just try and sit down and read a book out loud, in a chair, just sitting by yourself in a room, and you try to keep the energy level up, you try to keep the inflections interesting, you try to keep it from sounding like you're reading, and just communicating in, between 9 and 20 words, the soul of what you're trying to talk about, to connect emotionally with somebody through your voice it's not as easily done as it seems. People who are good at it, professionals, it seems really easy, right? But it takes a lot of training to make it look that easy.
Yeah. When I was on your when I was looking at your content, I was like, she's making this seem like it's just another day, I'm like, it sounds like I'm at like in the movies, and I could see the trailers and it's like, it's amazing. I don't even know how to put it into words, but it's so cool to see how much it brings the content to life, especially the pieces that you've worked on. I have a question for you. Can you share with us some of the cool projects you've worked on, some that you've really enjoyed, any maybe funny stories you have with some of the work that you've done? Because it seems like you've done a lot of different voiceover acting.
Absolutely. Well, one of the audiobooks I did was Your firstborn isn't perfect, and I only have one child. So I was like, oh, I'm going to learn a lot.
And you know as well, I have a son, so I have one child as well. So we're in this together.
Yeah. So for me, I always learn a lot from the clients that come to me asking me to, quote them on a project, whatever. And also, one of the things when you're working with a voice actor, and one of the things I get to uncover is, what is the emotion? What do you want your message to come across sounding like? Do you want accents? Do you want, a dramatic quality to it? Is there too much gravitas? Not enough gravitas? I worked on a virtual reality project. Actually, it was a virtual reality pitching product. So I hired 2 other voice actors, 2 men alongside me, and the 3 of us were a panel in the software, which sort of gives founders a safe place to pitch their project or to pitch to investors. So isn't that cool? Like,
That's
you could talk.
amazing.
Yeah, so you can talk to a computer and you could tell them, you can record from some pre-recorded questions, right? So you can practice. And that was a really cool project because I thought, wow, this is a really safe space. I like creating safe spaces, and I know that you do too.
Mhm.
So that was a pretty cool project. Let's see what other projects have. Some projects I can't talk about because of the clients. Let's see. My voiceover coaching sessions are really fun.
Yes, tell us about those.
So I like to do animation character voices. So the other day, my voiceover coach had me reading one of my 4-year-old daughter's books for our coaching lesson, which was really funny. And she had me giving each crayon color. I'm sure when I said that, some people are like, I know which book you're talking about. Each crayon she wanted me to give them a different voice. So like, maybe this crayon would be like, I've given up on life. I'm just wheat color. I can only color wheat. And maybe one is a brainiac and he has all the answers. You know what I mean? So it was really fun just pulling those voices out of my head. And by the way, if you have a kid and you're a voice actor, it's even harder because my daughter calls me out whenever I don't sound authentic. Like, give me a break, kid.
What's your daughter's favorite voice that you do, or character, or when she's playing with you? What is the what's the voice that
That's really interesting. Do you know what's really interesting? Her favorite voice of mine is my own voice. She always asks me, can you just say it in your regular voice?
Does she try to build? Does she have different characters too? Do you call her out when she's not having her true voice?
I do. She does Applejack from My Little Pony, and it's hilarious. It's so funny. She'll be like, Applejack. She'll be like, come over here and help me out with this, And I'm like, are you doing your Applejack voice? And she's like, no.
We have to interview her next time, okay? Have her
She's
on the podcast.
So funny. Yeah.
I think she was on the last time I called you, video chat. She popped in. I think I remember that.
Yeah, she's at grandma's. She always pops in. So today she's at grandma's.
We have a little bit longer. We have some time to share a little bit more, but I want to, as we close up, I want you to share, like, with the viewers watching this who might have a reason to reach out to somebody like yourself for voice acting. Mm-hmm. What are the different ways, like different modalities and ways that people can connect with someone like you? Is it books, movies, commercials? Can you list some of the different ways in which people can connect and maybe use your services?
Yes, I love that question because it's such a broad field. Some of the things I do: audiobooks, book trailers. So if you have a book coming out and you want to put together a little video to sort of hype it up, I've done those. Commercials, of course, promos, of course, social media videos, of course, animation, little animated spots. And,
if you need a little character or something like that, you can have something like that on your, on your social media.
That's fun. And I'm doing a podcast right now. So podcast intros and outros.
Podcast. Wow.
Yeah. So, yeah. So if you need a lead-in voice and you want to be the voice that stands out, you have somebody else come in and announce you, and it feels like you're not sort of like announcing yourself.
Yeah.
So that's kind of fun. Um, man, there's just so many things. Video games.
Video games are fun. That is, I mean, VR, you mentioned, I have a VR headset. I think
Yeah.
gaming is going to be the new storytelling in video games. Don't you agree? It's
Totally.
amazing. Beautiful. And the graphics, right?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. One of the challenges about COVID is voice actors always have to preserve their voice because that's your moneymaker. But like just staying hydrated and making sure nobody gives you the crud, that's like that's a deal breaker for us. So always taking care of your voice.
You can say no to this, but I have a really silly, fun idea as you made those fun voices.
Yeah.
I'm going to pull up a character. And I'm
Uh-oh.
going to give you
Oh, no.
I'm not going to hold this against you. You can
Okay.
create the voice for this person. This is like one of the mascots of my podcast, of my brand.
Oh,
And
no.
pressure.
Okay.
All right, let's see.
That's funny.
Okay, so speaking of networking and branding and how I've met some amazing people on this podcast, I'm gonna give you some time to think of a voice. So this character, have you seen some of my logos and merch? I have a monkey, and monkey to me
Yes.
means to be lighthearted, to be fun. It's a reminder to monkey brain, being in your head too much, a reminder to be in the present moment. This character here, we call him Victor Vibes. I don't know, it
Victor
just
Vibes.
happened.
Love
Now,
it.
Victor Vibes is custom made by a fellow guest on the
Nice.
podcast.
Awesome.
And what's so cool, listen to this, having people like yourself and people like this, Christina Lucia is her name, and I'll tag her in this video as well.
Love
I
it.
would never thought in a million years that I'd be having people like yourself, because when you start something, you think it's going to be one way. And I just want you to know I'm so grateful to have people like yourself on and people like this, because we got to cross modalities. We got to cross barriers. And yeah, so this is Victor Vibes. Do you want me to bring him closer?
Yeah, I can see him. I'm just trying to. So Victor Vibes has big ears. Victor Vibes.
He's very
Maybe
vibey. He's like
maybe he could sound like this, like he's really smart. He's a really smart guy. He seems like he's a boy to me. He seems like a little boy with big ears, but he doesn't have a lisp or anything like that. No speech impediments or nothing like that. He's just a little boy, and he loves Paul Vibes. That's his dad. Paul Vibes is my dad.
I love it.
Yeah.
For that. I put you in the spot. I know. I put you in the spot, but that was great. No, it is all about good vibes here. We're all about good vibes here. And
I
I've been
love
so
it.
lucky to connect with people like yourself. Is
So
there
fun.
anything that you want to share with the viewers about your field, about yourself, about your services? Anything that you want to share in closing with this podcast?
Well, I mean, the best place to reach me, there's a contact form on my website. It's melissadeltoro.com. So that's the best place. A lot of people tell me that whenever they type it without the HTTPS : 2// that it comes up like unsecured. So
Okay.
if you want to use the HTTPS : www.melissadeltoro.com, and I'm sure it'll be in the show notes.
And they will. And you also offer like a free thing. You're sharing like a little extra thing that's like
Yeah.
a motivational thing. Are you trying to take my motivational speaking job? What's going on here? I have you on my podcast, and then you're telling me that you're going to be. What's going on?
That's so funny. No, absolutely. I think different voices touch us differently in our lives. So we could both do exactly the same thing
all
and
this
get
together.
a totally different vibe. But yeah, so there's a contact form on there if there's ever any projects people want to contact me on there. But I was planning to offer a free gift for anybody who hears this web episode, which would be like a motivational audio. So one thing I didn't talk about is whenever I was having a challenge transferring or transitioning between corporate life and entrepreneurial life, I actually hired a hypnotherapist, which if you ever have one on your podcast, hypnotherapy is awesome. And basically what she did was she helped me, she created some audios for me that helped me to change my mindset. And changing your mindset is a daily, like it's like taking a bath every day or taking a shower. You need to do it regularly. So I had these audios that she had given me. I paid her a lot of money to give me these, and I'm going to give you one for free, which is basically just telling you, you can do this thing. Let's get out there and let's grab life by the horns and make it happen. And sometimes, believe it or not, there are not a lot of people in our lives that want to tell us to go for it. So I want to be that champion for your listeners, and I want to be a champion for you and anybody who connects in your network, that if you need somebody to tell you in your ear every day that you can do whatever it is that you have your heart set upon, I want to give people that gift every day. It's like 10 minutes, 15 minutes of reset. So that's what I'm offering.
I love that. I love you offering value. I think that's super cool. And I would love to share that on the podcast. So send me the link. And I want people to know, if they're watching this and they want to see us talk about different topics, they want to see us do a game. I know I kind of put you in the spot with the stuffed animal, but I'm like you. I'm always willing to try new things, connect with people that typically wouldn't connect. And just be creative and fun. And I really appreciate the energy and the experience, and you have like this vibrant energy to you. And I'm just feeding off of it, and
I love it.
In life sometimes, especially with everything going on in the world right now, as sometimes it is really hard. And as you know, I'm going to school for social work. Sometimes people are going through a lot of challenging situations. Sometimes, a motivational quote or something like you were saying can help. But as you know, it's really tough times. So it's cool to connect with people like yourself who are trying to spread, as they say, positive vibes. So I really do appreciate that.
Absolutely. And I think the work that you're doing of holding space for people is so incredibly crucial right now, especially younger people who feel like they're being crushed on all sides, from the economy to the environment and everything. Just holding space to know that you can do this, and this is your world, and the reality is created in your mind before it's actually happening. It's actually reversed of what we think. We think we're taking it in, but we're actually putting it out there. So I appreciate your vibes and you giving me a platform just, to speak my truth. I appreciate you.
That's beautiful. It reminds me of that saying, when you change your inner reality, your outer reality changes. And it's like this, there's another saying, like, nothing is neither good or bad, but it's the mind that makes it so. So there's always, something to learn, even during the challenging situations and moments in life. So again, thank you so much for coming on. Listen, I'm going to tag you in this video, and I'm going to be uploading little clips. And I highly recommend any of my fans, my friends, my family who are watching this to definitely check out all the wonderful things. And one day, maybe we're going to get maybe a line or two in the podcast. I'm super grateful, excited about that. So people can stay tuned, and whatever, even if you said one word, or it's just the People's Podcast, I'm sure it'll be epic, and I really appreciate it.
Thank you. That's very kind.
I look forward to seeing where that goes, and I look forward to connecting you and connecting each other with some cool people from around Earth.
Awesome. I love it. Thank you so much for this. This was wonderful. And I hope everybody that was listening got a lot of value out of this conversation. You are part of the conversation as well, even though you didn't have a voice here today.
It's good to be alive, and we all want to see you thrive. Hang on for the ride. This is Paul Vibes, bringing you a spiritual flow and information.